If you've ever been bargain hunting, you know the thrill of when you find a $20 table that is solid wood with an extension leaf. That way they can make it either for 4 or for 6. I used a 60 grit sandpaper with my mouse to roughen up the top and the legs so that it could really have a good grip. And then I will go ahead and paint it. And I'm going to show you the coolest part is the top. You know what else brings me joy? Not only finding the item that I'm going to transform, but actually having the imagination run wild. So I go and I look at it and I touch it and I get the idea. And then I figure out how I'm going to make that happen. Now, in this case, I didn't want to worry too much about the imperfections because I knew that I wanted it to look rough, kind of like a coastal boho chic table. And so I went to get inspiration at a local store that has really cool stuff. And this one was even more rough. So I knew that I wanted to use a brush to try to make this look. So if you notice, this is sage and this is a whitewash. It's actually a mixture I'm going to share with you. And of course, when I went out to look for my paint, my Annie Sloan antique white paint looked like this. So I had to clean it up and decided to put it in a solo cup. And then I got this idea to mix it with whitewash. I have done whitewash by itself before, but mixing it like this, I think, was what gave it even more depth and how the finish was just really gorgeous. So this is a 50-50 mix between the two paints, and I had it kind of runny so that it looked like that drinkable yogurt. This is a great project for a beginner or someone who wants to try a new way of doing things because by making the mixture a little bit runny, you're allowing yourself to kind of look and see what kind of vibe you want at the end of the project. So on the legs, I was a little bit more uniform. I did not want it perfect, but I didn't want it too shabby, and I really ended up liking the way it looked on the legs. So I started painting the bottom, the legs, and the sides, and then I'm going to go back up to the top to show you what that looks like here in a minute. Something else I've learned over many years of doing these types of projects is that you can play around with your paint. You can make it more watery so that it can brush on smoother and feel more like a whitewash, or you can actually make it thicker and use a lot less paint on the brush, making it like a dry brush type of situation where you can really be particular about where the paint goes on. I added the legs to the table so I could see what I was working with since I was working on the bottom right now, and I noticed that I needed to give it a quick sanding because it had some brush strokes, and that's okay. I often sand in between. I wanted to mimic the deeper grain on that inspiration table that I saw, and so I used this wire brush, and it did something for sure, but it didn't feel like it was enough. I remember that I had this tool from when I made the pendant lights. That was another DIY that turned out really cool, actually, where I did the chrome pendant lights and used rub and buff to make them gold and then blue. Oh, those were so gorgeous. I still love them every single day. Ooh, this one's a little bit stronger. I'm hoping this works. You can see it's really getting in there. Going with the grain, it feels like I'm destroying the table. Very counterintuitive. It really feels like that, but I'm going to have to trust the process. This is really getting in those grooves. Do you see how it's rough like that? That's what I was going for. And we're going to go for it. Let me start over here. Gosh, I hope this works out. It's really runny, but we're going to keep going. This is like very forgiving kind of a technique. Yeah. I don't even know if you can see it on the video. Oh, kind of. Okay. It definitely looks like a wash right now, which means I might have to add more paint, and that's okay. But I can tell this might have worked as far as like really getting in the grooves. Here's a different angle. I wish those stupid flies would leave. I'm not a good fly killer. Ugh. But now this one, I want to make sure it goes this way. Notice I'm not doing anything perfect. I'm not concerned about getting every single piece. I'm going to go back over it more than once, and I'll get to look at it from, far away and see what I like and what I don't. I love it. Actually, I'm loving how this is turning out. That's what we have right now. With this style of painting, it is better to start with less, and if you want to add more, then you can add more. This is where you should lose the fear, step back and look at your work and see, well, I'd like a little bit more here, I'd like a little bit less here, and just kind of go for it as best as you can. We have a fridge out in the garage, and I swear I have paint in here. The table is drying fast, and I'm loving how it looks. I think that maybe a light sanding with like 220 or like a really fine grit, maybe even 400, and I might call it a day. Do you want to come in? It's about to storm. You want to come in? While the storm was brewing outside, I decided to take apart the chairs and go ahead and sand them and get them ready to paint. I wanted all of the chairs to look uniform, even though they were purchased separately. I want them to look like they belong together. And that's an easy hack that you can use when you can't find 6 chairs. So the ones on the end are a little bit bigger, who cares? For the chairs, I actually used a color called Jogging Path by Sherwin-Williams. I like this color because it's not beige, but it is more of a neutral sage green. And I love it because it was just enough tone difference of the table and the chairs that it made it look a little bit like it had more depth. Let's talk about protective covers for both the table and the chair. So for the table, I decided to use this polyacrylic clear top coat. It is matte and it is made by Minwax. I've used this before and I love it because it is truly protective. It will help your furniture last for years to come. Nervous as can be. This is a little bit nerve-wracking, but one of the things I've learned is to just do a one pass and don't be too perfect with it. You'll miss some spots, but you kind of just have to let it go, because if you go over it like too many times, it starts looking dingy or like it won't look good. You just kind of have to go once, notice your imperfections and let them go and get them on the second time. When it came to protecting the chairs, I decided to use a dark wax. There were some things that were worth accentuating and making sure that the pieces did not look new. We definitely wanted to stay with the coastal vibe and accentuating some of those rougher pieces so that it looked more aged. This is the exact wax that I used by Annie Sloan, and it's just their dark wax. And you don't have to feel intimidated by it because you just put it on and then you remove anything that you want to make sure that you get the look that you want to achieve. All right, now it's time to get rid of this. I have these things here and I've laid out, it's actually a canvas. I think it's a drop cloth that I had gotten at Home Depot a long time ago. And I just laid it on the table. I'm going to show you here. I'm just right now putting it trying to make sure they all fit. Yeah, it's definitely going to fit because I can cut here. So I definitely have enough material. I found it in the attic last night and I was pretty happy because I didn't want to spend more money in this project.
Ice, give me that ice, give me that cool girl, isn't that nice? You like it, right? Attention's on me, right? Dice, rolling that dice, taking a chance on me for one night. Horizon, I hit like dynamite. It's causing commotion, got a
my family member's coming to pick it up tomorrow, so I actually set it up like that. But my table is actually this one. I need to put my life back together. The joy of making videos. I'm so bummed out that I didn't get to record them on the day that they came to get the table because I didn't see them with their first initial reaction. But I know that they love the table. They sent me a whole bunch of messages saying thank you and showed me some food on the table, which is super cool because I get to participate in some of that joy. And that's another one of the reasons that I create is because there's so much fun in the sharing of it. And to that I say, remember that you can create bliss at home and in your life. I'll talk to you later.